Enlarge and reduce. Second level transmutation, casting time of 1 action, range of 30 feet, components verbal somatic material, a pinch of powdered iron, duration concentration up to 1 minute. You cause a creature or an object you can see within range to grow larger or smaller for the duration. Choose either a creature or an object that is neither worn nor carried. If the target is unwilling, it can make a Constitution saving throw. On a success, the spell has no effect. If the target is a creature, everything it is wearing and carrying changes size with it. Any item dropped by an affected creature returns to normal size at once. Enlarge, the target size doubles in all dimensions and its weight is multiplied by 8. This growth, Jesus. This growth increases its size by 1 category from medium to large. For example, if there isn't enough room for the target to double in size, the creature or object attains the maximum possible size in the space available. Until the spell ends, the target also has advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. The target's weapons also grow to match the new size. While these weapons are enlarged, the target's attacks with them deal an extra 1d4 damage. Reduce, the target size is halved in all dimensions and its weight is reduced by 1/8 of normal. Wow. This reduction decreases its size by 1 category from medium to small. For example, until the spell ends, the target also has disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. The target's weapons also shrink to match its new size. While these weapons are reduced, the target's attacks with them deal 1d4 less damage. This can't reduce the damage below 1. Some tricky mechanics that we're gonna have to discuss. So, I always forget, this is 2nd level. I always think it's 3rd or 4th, and even then I thought that was like pretty low for what it's doing. But then you take into account the damage, still concentration, only for a minute, range of 30 feet. But I mean, why the multiplying of 8? Yes, you double in size. Why is your weight multiplied by 8? That can get real heavy real quick. Cast this on a Goliath or a heavyset Goliath, you're gone, you're sinking. Advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws is nice and also reflects a little bit of what you've done, but doesn't change the carry weight, weirdly. I mean, it only lasts for a minute, so they probably didn't bother to put that in. Also, the fact that when enlarged, your weapon deals only a d4 extra, which your size can vary depending if you're in a room where it can't grow to full height and while you're technically counted as large. Okay, so within the DMG, there are rules for damage dice of weapon size categories. In general, it starts at the base stat of whatever medium is, and then it just multiplies depending each rank up in size. A dagger for a medium creature, 1d4. A dagger for a large creature, 2d4, etc. So unless you're using a dagger, it's not going to match up 1-to-1 when you grow to a larger size with Enlarge. Still not the worst, that's still an extra d4 for a minute concentration. Now that I say that out loud. It is only 2nd level, and the main feature is the fact that they grow and are much bulkier in weight. This is opening a door by just growing and tearing it off. That's what this is for. This is more an excavation manipulation spell, weirdly? Like, yeah, it could still be used in combat. In fact, if you want to grapple something, go ahead and cast this. Now you have grappling limits are set namely by size category. You can only attempt to grapple something 1 size category larger than you. So if you cast Enlarge on your buddy, you can now attempt to grapple a giant. This can also happen in reverse if you reduce the enemy, which we'll move on to. So reduce, your size is halved, you go down to the size category small, and your weight is reduced to 1/8 of what it was. That is really light. Depending, but it can be. All right. So similar to how we just talked about a heavyset Goliath being enlarged, and that weight is ridiculous. Have a extremely malnourished goblin and cast Reduce on them, you can chuck them like a hacky sack. All of a sudden, this now becomes a weird transport spell. And half your size, it'd be easier to hide behind structures for cover. Oh, I guess that's an angle that doesn't come into mind when you're casting Larger Reduce, is the fact that cover is going to react differently to you. What would be half cover for one creature might not be that for you, and Enlarge to your detriment and Reduce to your benefit. Disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, yeah, that's gonna suck if you run into those situations in the first place, but when it comes to grappling, acrobatics just trumps needing strength for that. The damage dice being reduced by 1d4 kind of hurts, but let's say you reduce a rogue, that 1d4 is not gonna matter. But also they are so light, the hacky sack example earlier, you can chuck them. Or put them in a bag and sneak them in that way, or put them in someone else's bag, a cart, which is why I recommend that this is most effective on casting it on already small creatures. Now it says it's reduced by one size category, then gives what I'm taking as the example of medium to large, medium to small. It doesn't necessarily have to specifically target a medium creature. So cast this on already small races, at least reduce-wise, to make them even smaller for your advantage in stealthing and hiding and sneaking around. And then when it comes to your enemies, it's up to being able to kick them around. You could theoretically pick someone up. I mean, think about it. You cast Reduce on an enemy that you're currently fighting, and you can now grapple him. Though if they're really dexterous, then... oh no, yeah, they can still get out of that grapple. I'm really mixed on this one. Just because the situations where this would actually come in use... or at least Reduce would come in use. That's a bit vague. If anything, Reduce can be a buff. Yeah, there's the minus D4, but minus D4 isn't that much. Look, when we're coming into utility with this, when a creature is trying to squeeze into a smaller chamber, casting Reduce on them will allow them to actually enter. Like, let's say you're trying to get into a cave or goblin tunnels that are built for small creatures. Your medium companions, or medium barbarian, is having trouble squeezing through there and will be stabbed to death because all the goblins now have advantage against them while they're stuck in there. Then you just cast Reduce, they're now relatively that goblin size, or at least easier to fit in, and now you have a Goliath the size of a goblin going to slaughter said goblins. Enlarge, you can actually do the opposite. If you're in a... well, no, you can't. I had almost forgotten about that clause that if there isn't enough space, you just go to the max height within the chamber. So you sadly can't just cast Enlarge on a creature crawling through a tunnel or trying to get into a hallway behind you and then get stuck. You sadly can't wedge them. When it comes to world building and outside of combat, the fact that this is such a low-level spell, it can come up a bit. Like Enlarge would be used in construction or lifting things up or aiding in, well, building. That's where I see the most use for it. Again, it's like the scenarios where you just need something with big height, leverage, and strength. Whether that's moving, building, destroying, demolishing. Overall, there's some benefits and some downsides, and it's just a bit meh in the end. The only real benefit is the fact that it's only a second level spell. 5 out of 10. It can be decent, especially at the level you get it. Yeah. But I would actually like to hear from you on situations that you've creatively used Enlarge and Reduce. Or what are the best situations to use it? Did I miss an obvious example on what to use it for? Mention it below.